Hey, good morning, everybody. We had a technical issue here, which is why we were slightly delayed. So good morning from Rye, New York. I'm Danny Cherrett, CEO and founder of DC Finance. Galit, we had technical issues. Now it's fine. Everybody are joining. So you guys missed my opening video that you've seen for so many times already. So I guess you'll be good without it. We just got out of a snowstorm here in New York. So all the kids are at home, driving everyone crazy. And I have Galit here from Israel. So good morning, good afternoon, Galit.
Mm-hmm. Good morning to you. Good evening here.
I will start by with a couple of words about Galit. So Galit Zuckerman-Stark is the founder and CEO of Medasense Biometrics Ltd. She brings to the company over 20 years of entrepreneurship, management, and engineering experience in both startups and large corporations. Ms. Zuckerman founded Medasense with a vision to reduce widespread suffering from pain and pain treatment. We'll talk about all the concept of pain management, and what it entails. Leveraging her own technological background, she set out on a mission to develop innovative technologies enabling personalized and optimized pain treatment that improves patient outcomes. Before founding Medasense, Ms. Zuckerman led algorithm teams at Applied Materials, worked at Nokia, Siemens, and Nice Systems. Actually, I have a conversation with, I believe, the founder of Nice, Adiv Baruch, who's the head of the Export Institute today. I believe he's one of the founders or something like that of Nice. Ms. Zuckerman served in an elite division of Israel's 8200 Intelligence Corps unit. I like to say, many of you know 8200 unit as Israel's most secret, top cyber AI group in the Israeli military. Huge names came out of 8200. If it's a Checkpoint, Gil Shwade, there's an excellent group called Team 8, where we have Nadav, who's also came out of 8200. So it's really the top of Israel's technology when it comes to the army. She also was on founding teams of several algorithm-based startup companies, including Bone Tone Communications, which was successfully acquired by DSPG, traded company, in 2011. Galit holds an MSc's degrees in electrical engineering, and she's a mentor at 8200 Women to Women. So, first of all, how are you doing? How are things in Israel? How are things COVID-wise and everything?
Lockdown for weeks now. Well, we are optimistic because of the vaccination. The vaccination rate is nice. Well, I think more than almost 3 million people were already vaccinated, but the numbers still don't go down. So we're watching. We are also watching and hoping for better. We're hoping for good.
So very impressive bio, obviously. However, what brought you to start a medical startup with no medical background?
Okay, interesting. Going back a few years ago, first indeed, my background is engineering, algorithms, and I was working for high-tech companies, not medtech companies. And I think just before what made me go into that field, this was somehow made the Medasense technology unique, because I came from a totally different perspective on the medical world. On the personal note, I was back then working in large corporation. I was top contributor in the company that I worked for. And as you mentioned, being surrounded by my friends who were 8200 and the startup nation, like everyone was doing startups. So startup was not let's say something impossible. It was very accessible. And I really wanted to be a top contributor, to do this top contribution to a company that I can shape. And if to do so, to also have an impact on the world. And medical is the right place to do, because if a company is successful, it's not just financially successful, it really makes an impact on the world. And so I was really looking for medical problems, even though I was not a medical doctor back then.
Interesting. And by the way, we only see you here. So it's a question we asked before. So check that. Medasense develops technology that objectively quantify pain, which is interesting. How did you come to this idea? And was there anything else around in that particular space?
Well, it's a combination of things. First, though I didn't back then have a medical background, it happened to be that my mother is an operating room nurse. So when I heard back then about people wake up during surgery and can feel pain during the surgery and cannot do anything about it because they were paralyzed, I was shocked that this is possible, and it can happen. And I went to my mother and started to learn about it and to check about it. And she connected me to the leading pain specialist, anesthesiologist in Israel. And then I learned that while I was busy, doing very impressive using AI technology for solving many impressive issues and problems, at the other side, just across the street, the hospital, they were at the 21st century still using smiley faces to assess pain treatment and set a course of treatment that can change a person's life. So I really understand that there is a gap here that I might help solving. And it's a long, I'm sharing an information. It was a long path, but eventually it led me to start Medasense. To find a solution for that.
When somebody's in an operation under anesthesia and that's about it, so they're not supposed to feel anything?
Indeed, they are not supposed to feel anything if the anesthesia is well managed. But what some of us are not aware of is that anesthesia is actually a combination of different elements over different medication. One is that we will be asleep. The second one is that we won't feel pain, so there are painkillers or pain medications. And the third, that we won't move. So if something doesn't work well, let's say sedation, or the anesthesia work well, but the pain medication doesn't work well, we might experience pain. And if we somehow wake up and we are still paralyzed, then we will be even aware of that and won't be able to do anything about it because our muscles were paralyzed. We cannot move, we cannot blink. And this is the horror scenario. Of course, it happens rarely, in rare situations, but the pain or the nociception, I'll talk about it maybe a little bit when I give a short overview about Medasense, but this happens relatively often.
And people remember it? They tell you after the operation that they were going through hell and nobody knew?
This is the fact that you are in pain and you are aware. This happens in 0.05. This should be really rare. But the fact that your body experiencing pain and wake up with pain, this is quite common. Half of the people sadly wake up with moderate to severe pain today. So this is something that is happening, and this is part of the reasons that we come and said, let's help you anesthesiologists manage the pain better, because the patient cannot communicate. And apparently, without knowing what's going on and without having specific tools, won't be able to give the right dose or to give the right painkillers. So we are here to help.
So before I'll go with the other questions I have, let's perhaps get an overview of the company and what you guys are up to and solving.
Okay, great. So, I will share my screen. Can you open the possibility to share screen?
Of course. I forgot that we had to get in and out of the call. So
No problem.
now you can do this.
Okay, let me try again. Now I can do it. Okay, let's see. Now, can you see my screen?
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. So as I started and mentioned, Medasense, we are a commercial stage company and we work in the field of pain. We develop a technology that quantifies the physiological response to pain. Our body responds to pain so that physician, clinician can personalize the pain treatment. So they will give us the right amount of pain medication. Not too much, not too little, just what we need in order to avoid either pain, suffering from pain, or also suffering from too much or over medication. So when talking about pain, so first we all know that pain is a major clinical problem. Hundreds of people, if not more, 20% of the population to be accurate, suffer from pain. And one of the issues with pain and the challenges is that this is subjective. Each of us feels pain differently. For one, you come with a needle and you said it's 10 out of 10. And for the other one, he breaks his leg while doing ski and he forgot. He said, okay, I didn't notice that. So we experience pain differently between different people and also between different scenarios.
By the way, why is that? It's just how it is?
It's a combination of it's how it is as a human, but it's a combination of our body, the way that our body transmits information. And it's also a combination of, let's say, our understanding or interpretation of the pain. So it's a complex phenomena that eventually each one transfer information or interpret information differently, but it's a fact and it's still being investigated why. So not only that we experience pain differently, again, mentally or even physiologically, even when we are not aware, also we respond differently to the pain medication. So I've been surgeries that, and again, it's physiological pain. It's not even, how I respond, that two people, same age, same gender, more or less same weight, same BMI, and one needed a certain amount, and the second person that amount would do nothing, like needed 10 times the amount of medication for the same procedure. So we really respond differently also for the pain medication. And if the pain medication were without side effects, you could say, well, it's not that problem. But especially for the strong pain medication, and to name opioids, there are severe side effects. And one of them is respiratory depression, and the other one is addiction. The combination of the two is what we see in the US, especially in the US, which is the opioid epidemic. So giving too much or too little, both of them, we don't want to be in pain. And again, it's not just suffering, it's also our body is busy with handling with pain instead of handling the medical situation or trying to recovery. So both of them is not good for us. We really need to be at the right place. So we still, with those two scenarios, and while, pain is the main reason that we go to the hospital, to the physician, and we still in the 21st century use smiley faces. So definitely we have something to do. And medical teams, people were looking for years now for a solution, something that will be more objective, or something that will help them to set the right course of treatment. But again, how can you do that if you cannot quantify that? So this is where we came, and this is the problem, as I mentioned, that we are addressing. And we develop a technology that monitors and quantifies how the body, the patient's physiological response to pain, how the body responds. So on one hand, we take what you see here, a finger probe that looks like a pulse oximeter. It takes many, many different physiological signals. And then on the other hand, we are using artificial intelligence. We are looking on what we call the signature of pain, the way the body responds. Many parameters in our physiological response in our body respond when we're in pain. It's like the scream of the body when we are in pain. Once we find the signature with the artificial intelligence, we translate it into a number, the 58 that you see here, a number between 0 to 100 that reflects how much pain your body experiences. 100 is extreme, 0, probably you were given too much pain medication. So by now it works. We had plenty, we did a lot of studies, a lot of clinical work. To name the most, let's say, recent work is that we show that it works, not only works, but it helps. When using our technology, our monitors in surgery, patient reports less pain afterward. They feel less pain afterward on one hand, and on the other end, this is the 33% that you see. And on the other end, people have less side effects from the pain medication, from the opioids. Here it's the hypotension. So not only that we show that it's helpful, we translated that helpful, the clinical benefit, into economic benefit. So using the null saves, not only helps the patient, but we can show to the hospital that it saves money to the hospital, and return on investment is within a few months. So first application of first usage, and this is where we are active commercially selling. We focus in the operating room, as I mentioned, that patient cannot communicate, and still half of the people wake up with severe pain, and about 12% wake up with all the severe side effects of opioids. And it's not negligible. It's like $20 billion cost related to these side effects. So it's clear that it's not just giving too much or less, it's giving the right dose to the patient. So it's a market of about 300 million surgeries every year. It's a more than $3 billion market. So this is where we're selling today. Also, talking about COVID, especially in the last year, we also expanded our, let's say, commercial activity also into the critical care units, because people there think about, in the operating room, they are anesthetized for a few hours. In the critical care, they are there for weeks, especially with the COVID. And they get whatever the amount of analgesia they get in the operating room. In the critical care, it can be 100 times more. And pain is 50% of the people. When they do manage to recover, they say pain was the worst experience that they had during the ICU. So we really need to manage pain better way. And this is where we help also today. So commercially, we sell in Europe, Canada, Latin America, you can see here. And in Europe, we work with Medtronic, the largest medical device company in the world. We sell, they are a distributor partner. And we work, as our monitors are connected to the Philips monitors, to the Mindray monitors. So we really work with the big companies in order to bring our technology to the hospitals. So that's the commercial aspect of the company, but this is not all. As I started, our technology, it's a platform technology. The idea is to help whenever objective pain can help at the pain treatment. So for that, we develop our pipeline, and the same technology just apply with a wireless sensor, go to the iPad, iPhone, and then to the cloud. And with that, we can address many different scenarios of pain outside of the hospitals. So this is activity that we are doing currently on what we call investigational use, on research collaboration. We're now at the largest geriatric hospital in Israel, the Roth, granted by the Israel Innovation Authority. We have some collaborations with physicians on the other application that we see. So we really see, we see us as it's a mission to bring the technology to wherever the information can help with better pain treatment. So this is my team. We are 30 employees in Israel, Europe, and the US. We are coming from a different discipline, from hardware engineer, algorithms, and medical backgrounds, and we really all work together. And we believe that each one of us have a role in this world to make it better and to bring our solution to suffer less from pain. In yellow here, you can see our leadership team. We're 6, half women, half men. And each us bring different, let's say, different angles of the company. But what is nice is together we have experience both from startup or from managing, in the case of our chief commercial officer, managing $1 billion businesses in the medical. And together we combine from the startup into large corporation experience. And it's a unique experience to bring together at the management meeting decisions and moving forward with the company. So this is us. As a company, we raised about $30 million. Till now, this is strategic partners, family offices, and we have a mission, again, to take the technology and to help any patient, and this information can help the pain treatment to get it the right way. So he or she will suffer less from pain or from the side effects of, let's say, unadjusted pain treatment. So this is us.
Thank you. Very interesting story.
Stop sharing.
Yeah. Can you explain in more details how the technology really works?
Sure. So as I started, what we look on how the body responds to pain. So when we are in pain, our heart rate goes up, blood pressure increases, we start to sweat. So looking on each one of the different parameters is not indicative of pain. I'm speaking now, so probably my heart rate is much faster than yours. But when we are in pain, looking at the combination might give a unique pattern that repeats only when we are in pain. So the whole idea is taking multiple signals from different, again, it looks like a pulse oximeter, but it has many more. It's like 4 sensors, 20 different parameters, but taking many physiological signals and using the AI, looking on the pattern that repeats among those physiological signals. Once we capture this pattern, we translate it into occurrence or to a number between 0 to 100. So, and again, 100 is extreme response in the pattern for pain, and 0, there is no response, maybe either you overdose or too much pain medication, or there is no response, no physiological, very too calm. So this is the importance with the AI is what we call the signature of pain. Now, one thing that is also important to say is that part of the algorithm, when we hook up the system, we take 30 seconds of measurements. We calibrate to your baseline, to the physiological start, because again, currently my heart rate might be higher than yours, or maybe I'm sweating more, but it doesn't mean that I'm in pain. This is my starting point. So for each individual, we start from the starting point and then look for changes. And then by that, we are kind of removing subjectivity out of the equation. So this is the idea in high level.
And what's the status of the company today? Where are you guys in all aspects?
So we sell in Europe, Canada, Latin America, Israel, of course, and now with the UAE open to sell also there. We at the US, we are with the FDA process, so we are hoping to submit and to submit soon. And from the perspective, so this is from the commercial, and we are focusing in the hospital setting with the product that we mentioned. This is from the commercial, and we are developing by collaboration the pipeline of applications, so the wireless and the iPhone. So doing collaboration in order to, let's say, tailor specific, currently tailor specific solutions to specific scenarios using collaborations. So this is the high level. I mentioned we raised money, about $30 million so far, round C, and now we are also opening a new fundraising additional for the next stages of the company.
How much was raised so far, and how much are you seeking now?
We raised so far $32 million, and now the round is open to additional $10 million.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk later about what exactly are the needs you want to do with that capital. And competitors and the US market, I also wanted to ask you about. I assume at some point you'll look at that market as well. I see a couple of questions, but we'll get to it very shortly. I first wanted to ask, you mentioned many applications for objective pain monitoring. Why did you pick operating rooms as the first market?
So when we started with the feasibility of the technology in general lab scenarios. And then we look on, there are so many different applications, and each pain might be different a little bit from another. Chronic pain is different from acute, migraine might be different, older, younger. So when we looked on all of that, we said, let's first start with where people cannot express the pain, because at least what they can express, it's not accurate, but they can give an indication, I'm suffering more, suffering less. So we decided to start with the non-communicating. And with that, we wanted to start with what we say, the high end. High end is operating rooms when they are used to monitor. Now, this is it's a niche market, but a big, relatively homogeneous market. There are 300 million surgeries every year done, 300 million every year worldwide. Most of them two-thirds of them are under anesthesia. And half of the people wake up from pain, severe pain. 20% continue to suffer from pain for months and years later, and not necessarily they came with pain to the surgery that they came. So there is a big issue of pain afterward. And we saw that we heard about the need. It's not just about giving more, because we already saw the side effects of 12% of the people now, but it could grow if you just give more suffering from the opioids. So the need was clear. Anesthesiologists are used to monitors and getting number and giving pain medication based on this information, of course, with the clinical judgment. And everything ticked. So we took that market, and also in that market, we can immediately translate clinical benefit into economic benefit. So we could see the return on investment model or saving model without going through a reimbursement, because it's the hospital decide, and if you save money, the hospital can see that. You don't need a reimbursement code that can take years. So all of that made us focus on that first market.
Interesting. Is there a competition? I assume there is something. And if so, what are your edges really?
Yes, there is competition. Otherwise, it probably would say that there is no market there, or it's not an interesting market. So there is a competition. Specifically, there are 4 direct competitors in our market. The main difference between us and each one of the competitor is that we are working with the multi-parameter approach. Each one of our competitors take one physiological signal. One takes heart rate variability, change heart rate variability, and gives the best out of it. Another one looks at how the blood volume changes in the finger. So another one looks at sweating. Each one take one with one physiological parameter, you are limited. It may change, not because of pain. It may change from medication. It may not change because of medication. It may be affected or doesn't work because of different scenarios. When you take multiple, you really become starting to become robust to many different scenarios. And the AI is actually the multi-parameter and the artificial intelligence algorithm that makes it very strong. It's not just noise. It's not just more. It's 1 + 1 more than 2. And in our case, it's 20. So the AI and the multi-parameter approach is the main difference from the competition. And we see it, it's not just theoretical. We see it head to head, we see it in studies, and we see it in the field when users of our technology using us and they switch, they see the benefit because it works. It works in many different scenarios that competition doesn't.
Thank you. Tell us more about knowledge application. Nice word game here.
Yeah. Well, we should mirror our software, our VP marketing. She's brilliant. So we have the expertise. We know how to analyze pain. We have sophisticated algorithms that can handle many different scenarios of pain. And we wanted to take our knowledge and to bring it to the knowledge of the people to help them use that. And NOL is the brand name of our index. Then the number that I mentioned between 0 to 100, we call it NOL index. It's a short for Nociception level index. And nociception is physiological pain. It's the pain that exists even when you are asleep. So the knowledge is a brand name for the usage of our index in the, let's say, awake scenarios. When patients are awake, when patients are at home or in long-term facility. So as I mentioned, it's not the box that you see, the monitor that you see. It's this wireless sensor, and it goes to the iPhone, iPad, and then all the algorithms are not the bedside monitor, but in the cloud. So with that platform, it enables us to bring on one hand the patient or the user. It can see real time what's going on while he's doing, let's say, the exercise, the physiotherapy exercise. It gives the information, aggregate information during the weeks that the patient is working at home to the physician or the clinician, the person who treats. And the whole information at whole, it can, it aggregates, and then you can say the payer or the HMO, they can see how the progress, the reimbursement should be based on effectiveness. So it's a whole knowledge from physiological interpretation of what's going on through the course of treatment, through the course of physician or clinician treatment, and to the benefit of, again, getting the right treatment to the person.
And now back to my question earlier. You're raising funds now. What for? What are your current needs?
So we raised this currently approval up to $10 million with let's say three main goals. First, we continue to get the process to get the FDA clearance and introduce the solution in the US, the product in the US. So continue with this course of business. Second, to expand to different territories, specifically to the Asia Pacific. We are not there, and there are the market there and the people there. It's becoming even bigger than the West world. And third is to take those different, what we talk about the knowledge from a prototype that is now an early study to the market, to a usage, to the first usage with a partner. So these three elements are within this usage of funds.
And it's the US, you haven't reached out.
And of course, grow the commercialization where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Sorry.
US you haven't worked at yet because it's a tougher market when it comes to the regulation, or it was easier for you to work in Europe and Canada because you're there, or?
We went through, for different companies, Europe can be easier, and for the other companies, US or FDA can be easier. In our case, because it's a new technology, it's a novel technology, novel concept, in the US, it was more difficult than in Europe, and thereafter all the countries that are based on Europe, so Europe, Canada, Latin America, Australia. So for us, we started with Europe from the regulatory perspective, and then we really enjoy, of course, the fact that Israel is close to Europe, and we see that when we work with America. But the regulatory path is, in our case, was simpler back then in Europe compared to the US.
So Europe is more advanced when it comes to pain management technologies?
Yes, yes, it is more advanced. It's more advanced from both medical device in the field of pain and pain management and anesthesia. It's more advanced both from the medical device, both from even the medication that are used. It's the barrier in the US are higher than Europe, and US is behind in that term.
So if to suffer, it's better to suffer in Europe than in the US, it sounds. But but how come the US didn't catch up with that? I mean, US is in the cutting edge of healthcare and other areas. It's interesting that in this area they're not. They don't see the importance. They just, you know, why is that, if you had to guess?
There are two things. There are first, the US by itself, even the FDA by itself, set a goal because they know that there are, let's say, the tougher regulator, considered to be the toughest. I lived in Japan for a second, but considered to be the toughest regulator in many in the world, especially when it comes to new technologies. When it's Me Too technology, it's quite easy. This is when I mentioned it's quite easy to get an FDA clearance. When you come with new, novel, then it's more difficult. So actually, the FDA set programs how they can, you know, do better work in that term. So yes, this is what happened. It's not because it's less important. Actually, pain is, and maybe, you know, maybe it's also a combination. Pain is even a bigger problem than Europe. The opioid epidemic is in the US. In Europe, it's you see it a little bit in the UK, but in most of Europe, it's much to a lesser extent. So there is a dissonance here between the importance of managing pain and the regulation and the fear of bringing new technology and the level of requirements to make sure that, you know, no harm is done, especially for people who saw bad blood.
Now, just one more question before we'll jump to some questions from folks here. And I can already answer one question. People, some mentioned that they came late and they wanted to see the recording. We will send you all in an automatic email tomorrow where you can find the recording of today's session. So just before I go to some questions here, where do you see your technology in the future?
So in simple word, think about pulse oximeter, you know, very used everywhere in the world, everywhere in many medical scenarios. We see our technology as the next, you know, the pulse oximeter for pain. So we see our technology helps in any scenario, every scenario that the information about pain can be helpful. It will be a process from different scenarios, but eventually we see and we capture that quantification is a must in order to set the right treatment.
Let's see some couple of questions here. One is asking, are you open to distribution partnerships in developing countries?
We are open for collaborations. And again, we need to see together when we get a lot of offers, we need to see that there is a ready market there. for us, and again, to see the nature of collaboration.
Okay. I'm curious, what are the actual biomarkers that Medasense is monitoring with their system?
Okay. So we are looking at, we have 4 sensors. Basically, we look on something like 5 different families or systems, family of parameters. So on one, we're looking at the cardiac system. We look at the heart rate. We look at the heart rate variability. We look at the hemodynamic. We look at the blood pressure. And again, relative number. We care less about the absolute number and the changes, also the morphology. We look at the sweating, how we sweat, and again, all the different features within it. We look at a peripheral temperature. So it's not our core temperature that now we measure every day or every few hours. It's our finger. What is the peripheral temperature in our finger? And we also look on movement, which is somehow we're moving in a certain way, artifact, but also sometimes in the future movement or shaking. So these are, let's say, the main families of biomarkers that we look at.
Someone is asking for your contact information. So we will send it tomorrow, but I'll also share it with you now. There you go. Men cannot, I don't know how much you guys are advanced in studying the brain, but men cannot do 2 things at the same time, which is why when I type your email, which is really just cut and paste, it's not even typing, I cannot communicate with you. So I'm the worst example of people who cannot do 2 things at the same time, as simple as those things are.
I hope you do.
But at least I'm aware of it. Will the pricing reflect it to become as a big as a pulse meter?
So pulse oximeter now, I don't know, 30 years after it was started, it's everywhere. So I wouldn't say commodity, but it's obviously the price reflects that it's used in billions, of medical procedures every year. So the price right now reflects a price that, again, we have the ROI, return on investment model, that it saves money, but it represents the price that is suitable for a technology at this stage. But again, from the hospital perspective or from the users, it's tenths of the cost saving.
I have to say, guys, I'm going to make millions. Anybody wants to join me to develop something that will enable men to do 2 things at the same time. Trust me, we have a huge market here. We got Tal Brody here. By the way, Tal Brody, how are you? One of Israel's most famous players, really, that put us on the map. So Tal Brody, thank you for joining us. And I see you're enjoying yourself here. So thank you. Are you also working on searching efficient and new ways to reduce pain once you have a NOL degree of pain, null degree of pain?
So I'll be happy to communicate and to further hear what we are looking for. So as we mentioned, the knowledge, we hope to help reducing. But again, we give the information, and when we look for collaboration, we look on sometimes solutions that reduce the pain, and with our information can do it in the right way or the efficient way. So I'll be happy to further communicate.
Who are your clients? Patients or hospitals? I think hospitals. If hospitals, how do you convince them about cost savings?
Okay. So actually our clients today are the distributor. We sell through a distributor. So Medtronic is our customer, and the local distributors in the other countries are, they buy from us the system and they sell to the hospital. And how do they convince? How do we together convince? There is model. There is for the hospital we have Excel or a tool that you put the scenario of your hospital, the prices of your hospital, and it shows based on our studies how much saving we can see in your hospital specific scenario that you are using. That's one thing. The second thing is usually hospitals, the beginning, do some evaluation. They see for themselves the benefit. They can do the translation from the benefit. They know how much it costs. So once they see that it helps in their hospital and for their patients, they know how to do the ROA, the cost benefit or the cost saving, to translate that to their own case. So this is something that is part of the sales process, from the theoretical and to the practical implementation at the hospital.
What's the expected exit for new investors?
So as many medical companies, we see medical companies, it's like Pac-Man. Somebody buys someone and then other one is buying, and then you see even acquisition with billions of dollars. In our case, there are two paths like any other. Either one of our partners or potential, there are many, we have 3 or 4 partners, and we have 20 different possible partners that we talk with. One of them, each one of them, multi-billion-dollar company, may come with an offer and be our acquirer. So that's one path, so acquisition or M&A. Second is IPO. Both cases, when we're in the FDA, this is the timeline for either, again, plus minus around either one of them will happen, IPO and acquisition. So this is in general. In companies, we'll be happy to elaborate more.
How prevalent is your NOL technology in hospitals and medical standalone clinics in USA and Canada? I think we mentioned the USA is not yet.
Yeah.
And NOL relieve pain suffered by COVID-19 patients who are in advanced stages of the disease.
Okay, so in US we're not there. In Canada we are at early stage, so we are around Montreal. You can find our assistant. We're now working with a new distributor there. In terms of COVID, so again, in the case of COVID patients, and when I talk about COVID patients, I refer to COVID patients that are at the critical care unit. So are ventilated and sedated, they are asleep, they cannot communicate. So there we can help with setting the right dose. What we saw, we have been in a few, let's say we started in Israel and Europe. The amount of pain medication that are used in those patients is very, very high. And it's getting, every day it's getting higher because the body develop tolerance. So basically when we use opioids, we use more and more. So we can help starting with a lower dose and then not going to the big dosage. So we can help lowering, but because it's very sensitive, we know that when you use, the patient won't be experiencing pain. It will reflect that before the patient is experiencing pain. So we really help to titrate, not too much, not too little, not overdose, and then, opioid side effect, respiratory depression. They have the issue with the lungs. They are ventilated, and now all the body stops breathing, the breath from the physiological system. So we help there with not too much, and stress response, they will start fighting with the ventilation. So we really help there.
Are there clinical trials required for this research towards therapies and treatments? So required in order to show how it can be benefit. So yes, required in order to show, and we do some early work there. So we're looking to collaborate actually and to show the benefit, the usage and the benefit there, and how to use this number to the most, let's say, in the most effective way for the user of the patient. So yes. Again, I'm very excited to have Tal Brody with us, and he has a question. Tal is asking, what about patents, if you have, and where? Yeah,
we have about 30 patents and patent applications. Depend on the family of patents. Some of them are US and Europe, and some of them are in the major countries, US, Europe, China, Japan, Australia. So depends on the family of statins.
What is the standard of care today to measure pain in general and in the operating rooms?
In general, it's what is called the numerical pain scale, asking from 0 to 10 how much pain you feel, or using the smiley faces. This is the standard of care. And they need to feel it, and it's part of the reports of the patients. In the operating room, and the standard of care is looking at the heart rate or the blood pressure or both of them, which when we are in pain or experiencing pain, they should go up. So if it goes up, it means that the patient is in pain, and then they give pain medication. However, as I mentioned, when the heart rate and blood pressure goes up and you notice it, usually it's when it's a little bit too late. So this is in the operating room. And in the critical care, actually, if the patient is not communicating and not not moving at all, they say there is no way to assess that. If he's moving, so they can look at the face, but if he or she are totally asleep, nothing at all.
Again, do you have an anticipated timeline for an exit? But I think we spoke about that. That's another question here.
And again, for those who are, to get into more detail, those who are interested to get into more details about the possible path, they are invited to communicate directly with me.
Do you work primarily with cancer patients? I'm in Toronto.
Okay. We work commercially with patients who go to surgery. So it might be cancer patients if they go to surgery to remove tumor, but it might be any other patient to go to any other surgery that is painful. So we don't work necessarily with cancer patients today, any surgery. And in the future, one of the applications is indeed looking on specific scenario oncology patients, because they suffer one of the impact of that is it's very painful. So these are part of the different, let's say, usages or potential application that we would like to collaborate and to explore.
So someone writes, I joined late. I don't know if you introduced the leading team. We have, Sharjah, you can probably catch it at our recording. We will have it by the end of the day, and we'll let you all know tomorrow. You're all going to get an email with the recording information and Galit's information. And if you need anything at all, just reach out to us. Where is your...
And also on our, by the way, our website, there is the leadership team there with our bios.
Where is your R&D center, and are you looking for developers? And another question is, any applications for migraines?
Any application for migraine? Okay, got it. So first, our R&D center is in Israel, Ramat Gan. When we have open position, immediately in our website, we currently have one open position. Again, it changes on the according to the specific needs and the specific developments. Also, it's published in our website. In terms of migraine, migraine is one application, like painful, and actually it's a coming and going pain. And I can offline elaborate on that if the person who asked this question wants, but it's part of the application that we see, that it takes time to get to the right treatment. So it might be a possible, again, in the pipeline of application, it might be a possible application. And we'll be happy to hear, and if there is a strategic partner there to collaborate.
Sonia mentions that you could add this technology to the portable machine that carries around the meds for oncology patients, so they don't dose if they don't need to. So yeah, we've been here exactly for 1 hour. Anything else you'd like to add, Galit, at this stage?
Again, I'll be happy to communicate and to share more information and to discuss with the people who are interested in our company, both from the perspective of the investment or collaboration in terms of from the medical field or from, I don't know if there are people from the industry. From the industry, we are commercially at one application, but the market and the options and the application are huge. We cannot do that alone, so we look for partners. And feel free to communicate with me. You have my emails and the contact details.
And one of our friends writes here, do you guys have a deck or a business plan on the website for us to take a look at? Yeah.
There is in the website there is a lot of information, and there are short movies for specific deck presentation. Feel free to contact me. But there is a lot of information on the website and very easily accessible.
Yeah, so I sent you her email as well. You can take a look at there. Thank you, and I'll just update everybody as I always do. What's next? So this week we never had so many sessions going on. It's been really amazing. We've done over 100 since March, and now every week we have 2 sessions until I think April. We're completely full, and I would like to tell you that this Thursday my guests are Dr. Ayman Mansour, who was the advisor to the Israeli government regarding the UAE region, and Miroslav Zafirov, who was or still is with UNICEF and all of that, UNESCO, completely different organizations. And that's part of our series regarding the UAE. As you know, we are doing a major conference in June under the patronage of the Ministry of Economy there, and the Expert Institute, and the Israeli Tech Association, and INSEAD, an amazing name. So now we started a sub-series that really talks with the people who understand what's going on in the UAE about what's going on in the UAE. Because most of the stuff I see go on in Israel are people that are irrelevant to the UAE in any which way, and bank leaders that are taking pictures with doves and galabia, which is not my idea of how you understand what's going on in the UAE, which is why I spoke to major families in the UAE and others in that space. My last discussion with Dr. Abbas Dahouk, who was the advisor to the US government, I think had the highest number of participants. So that's happening this Thursday at 11. It's going to be exciting. Next week, of course, we have more, and we'll update you. 2 more sessions. In April, we'll be doing an in-person conference at the rooftop of the World Trade Center. And in June, mid-June, we are doing our event in the UAE in both Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So let me see. I think we're all set. So everybody stay safe. For those of you in New York, stay warm. For those of you in Israel, enjoy the weather.
And getting out from the lockdown, maybe.
Getting out of the lockdown, yeah. And yeah, we'll send all the information. You're going to get an automated email with the Galit's information and the recorded session. Thank you. Stay safe, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.